A British Imam has been told to leave his post at a Saudi-funded London mosque for, he alleges, criticising the Gulf state's royal family. Ajmal Masroor led monthly Friday prayers at the Fitzrovia Mosque and ran counselling sessions. The Imam's firing took place days after he used his Facebook page to share a post describing the ruling family as despotic, illegitimate and at the mercy of the US. Using the platform again, following the news of his early retirement, he wrote that the Crown Prince silences opposition. And he ended his post that has been widely shared online by saying that religious leaders in the Muslim community have a right to freedom of speech. Well, the Muslim World League, responsible for the Guj Street Mosque, says that Ajmal Masroor was in a voluntary role and left them no choice.
It was agreed with him that the mosque pulpit is not the place to attack people, governments, group or sect, or to express certain political views. But since he continued provoking public opinion against the individuals, governments, causing stir in the society, shaming and accusing falsely, no option was left but to stop dealing with him in any way.
The former Imam also highlighted the growing concern that the Imams, but Hunt also referred to the friendship between the two countries. Well, I'm now joined by the Imam himself, Ajmal Masroor. Ajmal, thank you for joining us. I've seen some of your comments you made online. Were you making political comments while you're in the pulpit preaching in the mosque?
I think that's an unfair question. As a Muslim, I make political comments all the time. Islam does not separate religion and politics. It is part and parcel of everyday living. What I have done all my life is I have clearly stated the truth. I've stood for democracy and freedom of choice and speech, freedom of people, and the right for governance to be given to people rather than dictators and despots.
Well, Sir Citrus, you say that's maybe not a fair question, but in fact the mosque itself said you were not supposed to be making any political comments while preaching in the mosque.
Well, let me explain. I've been in that mosque for 22 years. It's not one day. When I began that particular engagement, I asked them if they would agree to my terms and conditions, and that is, I will speak politically from the pulpit, I will speak freely, and they will not muzzle me or censor me. They agreed to all these terms. I've been preaching for 22 years in that mosque. What's different now? Well, since Mohammed bin Salman came to power, I get a sense that they don't want any criticism of the new regime. So I've been told that as long as you stay away from our king and the royal family, on the pulpit of that particular mosque, you're free to speak anywhere else about anything you want. We will not ask you to not to do any of that. I have written on my Facebook post for the last 10 years on various topics, including Saudi Arabia. But now this so-called reforming Crown Prince can't tolerate criticism or opposition, including what we are seeing in Turkey with the journalist disappearing. So it is not a coincidence. And what the mosque is saying, or the management is saying, they're actually conflating the issue. They're saying I'm creating hysteria, community conflict or strife. What a bunch of lies. I have given speech in that mosque. Every speech has been recorded. I challenge them to show one speech that would create discord within the community. It would always talk for justice and fairness in the world, and that's what they can't tolerate.
Also, perhaps you being provocative, as you say, it's a reformed government there now as such, but and you said that they said you should not speak out against the king or the royal family, but did you carry on doing that anyway?
Not in the mosque.
Not in the mosque?
No. As per agreement, I would not speak against the royal family or the crown prince or the king inside that particular mosque. But I'm free to speak about anyone I like, anywhere I want. This is a free country. We have enshrined in our culture, in our country, freedom of speech. Saudi Arabia may not understand it, but by the way, what they're saying is totally un-Islamic. Islam guarantees freedom of speech. As an Imam, it's my duty to speak freely. I'm supposed to be interpreting the Quran, challenging the people. If I can't do that to the rulers, who am I supposed to challenge? There is a very nice saying of the Prophet. Prophet says something beautiful. He said, the most amazing struggle a believer can pursue is to speak against a tyrant about his tyranny. I'm not going to abandon that, but I respected our agreement not to speak from that mosque's pulpit against the king. I didn't. I'm allowed to write about it, and I did. What do you want me to do? Stay silent about the inhuman activities over there, human rights abuse, lack of democracy, purging of the opposition?
Somebody with those views, representing those views, going into a Saudi-funded mosque is obviously...
I've been doing it for 22 years. what's changed.
Tell us about that Facebook post you made about the Khashoggi case. Obviously, the Turkish officials are blaming the Saudis behind this. What do you make of this?
It is very alarming. It is not only alarming, it's disturbing. By the way, Khashoggi is not the only person. In Saudi Arabia today, more than 2,000 plus scholars are detained, including senior imams of the Holy Mosque in Mecca. Saudi governments are doing a complete purge of any opposition in order to legitimize Mohammed bin Salman's dream of so-called reform. This is not reform, this is deform in my view. So Jamil Khashoggi's case is a good case in point. In Turkey, if he has been assassinated in the embassy, that is a disaster that we never expected ever to happen. That would be a test for the West when it comes to its relationship with Saudi Arabia, and it will be a good test for Turkey to see how much they can stand this human rights abuse in their own doorstep.
And what about what's happening to you? What does it tell you about somebody living in the UK getting pressure, as you perceive it to be, from Saudi Arabia now?
A lot of my friends have written to me saying, please be careful. These people, Saudi Arabia, and especially the intelligence services and the royal family, they're capable of doing anything. They will not.
You fear for your life?
I do. Of course I do.
You will carry on speaking out?
Of course I will carry on speaking. Remember, I already live with 2 death threats. The ISIS idiots have given me a death threat, and the Al-Shabaab from Somalia have given me a death threat. I'm already banned from Bangladesh, my parents' country, because I've spoken against that government vociferously for its human rights abuse. So Saudi Arabia would be one more added. In fact, if Saudi government doesn't like me, it'll be a badge of honor, because I'll know that I've been doing and speaking the truth. But my point is the same as always. I stand for human rights of all people. I stand for freedom of all people. I stand for democracy in all parts of the world, especially the Muslim world. And I don't like tyrants and dictators and despots. They need to be rid of as soon as possible.
Ajmal Masroor, thank you very much for joining us here in the studio.